Hello and welcome to part 3 of the series on where are black people in this country going. So where are black people in this country going, and in particular the African Caribbean community here in Leicester? In previous parts of the series I've suggested that working together and speaking with one voice will enable the community to avoid becoming invisible in the eyes of the council, other agencies and other communities. It's the age-old cliché, of course, of together we stand, divided we fall. Apart from being a cliché, it's a truth that has stood the test of time. So what is it that's preventing the African Caribbean community here in Leicester from addressing the issues affecting it? In a word, inertia. So what is this thing, inertia? Well, the scientist tells us that if a body is at rest in its comfort zone and we want to move it, we've got to overcome its inertia. If a body is moving at constant velocity, in our case in the wrong direction, and we want to change its direction and speed, we've got to overcome its inertia. They also tell us that inertia is one of those natural laws of life that you can't get away from, you can't get around, you've got to face it square on. And in addition, the amount of energy needed to overcome the inertia is greater than the energy needed to keep it going once you've overcome the inertia. In other words, if you want to bring about changes in society, changes in a community, then you've got to put a lot of energy in the first place. But once you've started the change will then take on its own momentum, and then things will start to happen. People will become inspired, and they will in turn inspire others to take on the changes. And so, like a domino effect, once you've started at one end, the whole thing just continues of its own momentum. Of course, from time to time, you've got to put energy in to keep it going, keep it inspired. So what are these inertias then affecting our community? To be honest, the list is endless. So I'm only going to mention some of those that I recognize. Firstly, the size of the task of trying to get the community to compete like a Tiger Woods on the golf course or a Usain Bolt on the racetrack is so large that it puts us off wanting to try in the first place. Secondly, there are members in our community who are well capable of turning the community around and get it pointed in the right direction, but they are concentrating their energies elsewhere. And then of course there is the comfort zone syndrome, where we are sitting in our comfort zone and we see no reason why we should put ourselves out to help others, and in particular those who doesn't even recognize that there is a problem in the first place. And then there are those individuals in our community who are giving the community a bad name. And I'm not here talking about the criminals. I'm talking about those so-called community leaders who are only in it for themselves and leading the community down the wrong road. And then of course there's the problem of we're looking to the next person to take up the mantle of addressing the issues of our community, completely forgetting that we are that next person. I am that next person. You are that next person. And then there's the classic one, where we see ourselves as a victim and everybody owes something. Those then are some of the inertias affecting our community. So how do we get around these inertias? Well, firstly, we've got to recognize that our community is made up of a number of individuals, and therefore we've got to address the issue from an individual point of view. So like-minded, selfless individuals should come together behind common causes, be they political, economic, educational or social. And the benefits and knowledge gained from these groups should then be shared out into the community so that they too can benefit from it. In that way, we'll start to lift ourselves up by our bootstraps. And these groups don't need to be any larger than 2 or 3 or 4 people coming together behind common causes. That way, we'll start to develop a culture of working together and sharing. Now, we mustn't expect that we'll solve our problem overnight. Neither must we expect that everyone will want to get involved. But what we must do, we must have a mindset that says we're going to help everyone in our community. And we must go about this intelligently. And key to this is that we must reach out first to those who are reaching out for help. Remember, overcoming the inertia is our initial aim. Time, patience, persistence, and circumstances will take care of the rest. In time, these small groups will merge together to form larger groups, but we must never have one large group. But we must always speak with one voice and act together when circumstances dictate. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we shouldn't have a community leader. Yes, I know, nothing I've said so far is new. Other communities have been practicing these things for years. And yes, it's not easy. But the good news is, it's not as difficult as we initially perceived. And this is something we can do for ourselves and future generations expected of us. Remember, we are our brother's keeper. We are our sister's keeper. And that we're bounded together by more than the colour of our skins. We are locked together by our common history and our common destiny. So it is time to take hold and move to that brighter future together. Remember, life makes us no promises. Life is what it is. But life gives us a number of gifts. 3 of these are the belief that you can do something about the situation you find yourself in. Secondly, that you can bring about change, that you can do things. And thirdly, hope. These 3 gifts, the belief, the ability to do things, and hope, when combined with like-minded, selfless individuals, I believe will enable us to overcome the problems affecting us here in our community. Thank you very much for listening. Feel free to leave a comment, good or bad, and I hope you can join me in part 4 of the series. Goodbye.